Welcome to this instalment of Buzz TV. Mary, women do not appear to be much in evidence in the uprising in the Middle East. Is this really the case?
Well, yes and no. Certainly at the beginning, in both Egypt and Tunisia, there were women. You will remember from the shots of Tahrir Square in Cairo that there were quite a few women protesters, and the same was true in Tunisia. However, what's happened in Egypt, that when the committee was set up to reform the constitution, there were no women on it. And there are fears in Tunisia that the same thing will happen when there's progress towards whatever happens in the future. So I think though there were women, the future I think isn't looking so good. And I think we must keep observing this. And those of us in the West who are concerned about this should just take note of what is going on and monitor it closely.
Has there been significant improvements in women's rights in Egypt and Tunisia during the past few years?
Well, certainly during the past few years, and the main advance has been in education. In Egypt, more than half of the places in higher education are now taken up by women, and the same is true in Jordan and the United Arab Emirates. So there's been huge advances in education, which really has made a difference. However, this has only really affected a few, and it's not the case in the rural areas. There's getting to be more and more of a split between the urban women and the women who live in the countryside. And there's also an issue here about Islam and fundamentalism and where this goes after these uprisings. And Isabel Coleman, who is from the United States, from the Foreign Policy Council, she's director of the women's programme there, and she says, and rightly I think, that women's rights will be the real litmus test as to whether Islam and democracy can work together, and we will actually see proper democracy involving women as well as men in the future in the Middle East.
Do you feel there is any future role for women in Libya?
Well, I do. I mean, sadly, there doesn't seem to be a role for anybody very much apart from Colonel Gaddafi and fighting troops at the moment. Of course we support our troops in Libya, and I would do that, but we need to see what happens and make sure that when the fighting is over, and I hope the establishment of democratic structures there, that women are properly involved and involved in the way that they should be.
Thank you, Mary.